Federal food safety officials say they have confirmed the first case of dermo disease in oysters from Nova Scotia. The disease, detected in samples from Merigomish in Pictou County, can kill oysters but poses no health risk to humans. Jeff Bishop is Executive Director of the Aquaculture Association of Nova Scotia. So what has been the reaction from oyster farmers in this province after hearing about the discovery of dermo?
Yeah, it's early days, Amy. Just a few days since the confirmation of the find, and so folks are doing what a lot of folks do when an issue like this comes up with their livelihood. They're looking for answers and trying to find out more and as much as they can about what exactly dermo is, because it is relatively new, with this just being the second find in Canada in history.
Well, talk to me a bit about what this disease can do to oyster stocks.
Right, so it's caused by a parasite with a Latin name I'll try, called perkinsosis marinus, so it's a little one-celled organism that causes the disease itself, and basically it causes the oysters just not to be healthy, and so they don't grow properly within the environment, whether it's wild caught or wild oysters, or ones that, like ours in aquaculture, that we are growing in cages.
Now, CFIA says mortality rates are typically 50 to 70%. That's got to be a big number and a big fear for folks.
It absolutely is, and so that's the one of those factors that folks are really concerned about. It's not just a small amount when it can be found to be affecting a population, because, as you say, a 50 or 75% loss of a population is one that's sort of insurmountable when you're raising oysters to be sold, to be put on the market.
And how long does it take from seed to market? It's several years, correct?
Yes, yeah. It depends on a number of factors. How big you start with the seed that you have, and putting them in cages or seeding the ground area of a lease. But yeah, typically 4 to 5 years, and it depends on other things like water temperature as well in the area.
Of course, the holidays are a big time for buying and consuming oysters. What do you say to folks who might maybe shy away from them because they've heard about the case of dermo?
Yeah, it's important for folks to know that dermo is not a food safety concern for humans whatsoever. You can consume oysters that they're found in waters or populations that are infected with dermo, and it will have no impact on you whatsoever. And so it's still healthy to be buying oysters. And of course, we'll be a little bit biased and say we hope you do enjoy some Nova Scotia oysters in the holiday season. But yeah, it's not something to be concerned about when you're at your when you're at your parties and superstores and restaurants looking for to enjoy some oysters this holiday season.
Well, is there any help by way of insurance or government assistance for farmers who might be impacted if more cases are found?
Yeah, as I say, it's really early days, Amy, and so that's discussions that we're having with our partners in the provincial and federal governments. Crop insurance, like our terrestrial farmers, like they have, isn't as common amongst sea farmers, and so it's another area because of different impacts like this, like climate effects and weather effects that we're seeing that are affecting aquaculture. It's an area we've been looking at of looking for opportunities for folks to potentially buy insurance or invest in insurance for their crops, their oysters or finfish that they may have as well. So it's not something that's very common here, but something we've been talking about in recent years.
Now, MSX is another disease that was discovered in PEI this past summer, and that parasite wiped out oyster production in the Bredor Lake. What lessons can be learned from those experiences?
Yeah, there's it's some unfortunate lessons, I guess. And MSX is an interesting parasite on its own as well. It's been known up and down the eastern seaboard of the United States, and as you say, here in Nova Scotia and Cape Breton for over 20 years. But there's not a lot known about MSX specifically in the way that the disease is moved. There's some theories, everything from oysters being brought from different places, maybe down along the eastern seaboard years ago, to bilge water from boats traveling in the area that could have been part of it, but nothing definitive. So lots of research opportunities, especially related to MSX and how we can potentially make changes to what we do on activities that could be potentially spreading, or even learning how are there opportunities for us to be growing oyster populations in areas that do have dermo or MSX, simply by making changes to the way that the gear that we're using, for example, is one thing that we're looking at.
All right, Mr.
ahead.
Bishop, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Amy. I appreciate it.